My name is Brian King. I'm 53 years old. My design in those heady younger days was I was going to be an actor, but it didn't really work out after years of trying and kind of falling short. So in 95, I took a job with Airborne Express. I thought things were going pretty well, and this was right then was in the flowering of the IT explosion, the bubble. The recruiter who had hired me at Airborne Express was lured away to a software company where he became a recruiter. They had a position that opened in that, and he thought of me. So he called me and he said, "You got to come and take a look at this." And the package they offered me for that position was, you couldn't say no. You couldn't say no. And you looked at the building, they had a gym, they had a yoga room, they had a sleeping room where you could take a nap in the middle of the day if you were tired. You know, I mean, what can you do? But then the bust hit. And eventually, the company was absorbed by their competitor. So I was afforded, counseling and a fairly nice severance, and everything was all really touchy-feely. But it wasn't a good experience because I was out of work. And through a temp agency, I think the next one, I got hired by a food distributor in the Seattle area. I felt good there. I liked the people. It was a small, tight, energetic company. And so I went to work for them full-time, eventually became their wholesale account manager. But that company eventually, slowly during the course of a year or so I was there, went out of business as well. But during this period of time, I'd been floating my resume out there, and I was picked up by Washington Mutual Bank, the late, great Washington Mutual. And then this whole economic real estate meltdown occurred. Where was I working at this time? Department? Home loans. What was suffering most at this particular time? Home lending. So the home loans department, where I figured that I was safe, suddenly started disintegrating, and I said, "Oh my gosh, here we go again." I could see it happening. So I made another move, and I moved into retail in the bank, retail sales development. And in September of '09, Washington Mutual was sold to J.P. Morgan Chase. So my entire department was dissolved. My unemployment benefits will be expiring soon. We have to apply for an extension. I like to joke about it, but the companies I go to work for go out of business. And so I hire on with this enormous company, Washington Mutual Bank. I hire on with it and say,
looked at the top 100
companies to work for. It's like, okay, now I'm safe. And so one department after the other I started working for, it's like I get there, and I step there, and finally the whole company goes out of business.
They're like, oh, you might as well be an actor.
Might as well be an actor. A mindset that I've developed that I need to work through is the notion that risk does not pay. Because my experience with risk has been not what all of these self-help books would like to have you believe. My father was had a white-collar position in a steel foundry, and we moved up and down the coast of Lake Erie most of my childhood, and then in the late 60s, early 70s, 1970, my father decided that they wanted to get away from the industrial belt. My father's dream was to relocate to Montana, start his own accounting firm, his own business there. It was the grand scheme. Once they relocated there, he was not able to get a toehold because the economy was small. There was little demand for that business. It's the smaller communities there. And he wasn't able to get going. So he, with a family of four children and a wife, was out of work in 1970 through the early 70s. and that was a very panicky time. And to this day, I think the stress is what killed him. Actually, he had a heart attack.
He was
Young, at 46. And as a young man, nothing, I was a teenager. What's really going on doesn't set in. You're still so self-focused on, going out and, partying or doing what you want to do, and work at that time in your life is something that you kind of have to do, but, it's not a big deal. I'd rather, go out and hang out with my buddies or something. So this was the life I had. Meanwhile, going all around me, my father's world was collapsing, and they were shielding us. They were shielding us from it the best they could, but I saw what had happened to my father. I just saw his anguish and his rage and his frustration.
My name is Jessica Goldstein. Went to Washington University in St. Louis. I was a drama major. So I worked for Youth Theater Northwest, West Seattle Kids Theater, Northwest Actors Studio, Freehold Theater, just all these places. I'm pregnant all of a sudden. I'm 46 years old. So I got a job, and I was bringing in money, and I was in grad school, and I was doing my student teaching, and I was pregnant. They gave me some maternity leave. That was really nice. I did cry to the HR department when they gave me insurance. I was so proud that I could give my son insurance, that he was covered. It really, really was important to me. We're starting to think, we've got to move. Should we move closer to where I'm teaching? Brian, not sure about his work. This is right around the WAMU stuff. We don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, January 2009, I think, we get this call from my father and his wife. Why don't you move here? When we decided to move, we got rid of almost everything. We had 5 garage sales. It got to a point where we put things on Craigslist. People would come and take our bed. We are living in somebody else's house with somebody else's rules. It's hard for me to maintain my adulthood. I'm living with my father. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad we had a place to land. So we started arguing a lot about money. We even had to be in counseling at some point. I mean, it really was starting to hit hard. Financially, we're living on unemployment. I am not.
What's left of savings?
My IRAs are intact. Modestly. Very modest after the tech fall, which killed us. So we're not really living on very much.
My severance and transition settlement from Washington Mutual basically financed us moving out here. Residual savings from that, plus unemployment.
Plus
and I've
child
got my
support.
I have a child support payment. I have a car payment, and Cobra, of course. Cobra's subsidized, so that's a lifesaver right now. I have
That's
Jonah.
amazing.
I have Jonah on my.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have Jonah on my my Cobra
Mine-
policy, but
yeah.
it's to the wire. The future is kind of
If
scary.
if
It's still a
Jonah
little
wasn't
blurry,
part
you
of
know?
it, then it would be okay because
Yeah,
it would be
wouldn't
our
okay
burden.
because I'm tired of it.
But
Frankly,
it would be our burden, Brian.
Yeah, it would be our burden, but you know what? We've had a burden
It's
for a long time. You get an education in the arts, and what do you do when the thing that you really, really want to do, you discover you're really not good enough at? And you don't have a plan B, And so what do? Well, a lot of people are able to, grab a different vine and take a different thing, but for some reason, be it my own bad decisions or something, I don't know, or just the luck of the draw or the fortunes, I haven't had that experience. I have not been able to prosper and get ahead.
Thank God he's funny because
Not so much these days.
But
crabby.
we've had some pretty rough times together.
Sure, a lot of stress.
Intimately, it's we're in a struggle right now.
So now we're here. We don't have jobs. We're not really. We're trying to do it, but we don't have.
Footing.
What do we have? We don't have footing. You know.
We're trying.